guys, this is a quick unboxing, belated birthday gift from earlier this fall kind of thing, and it's a Sizzix Sidekick. I'll throw a link down below because I got a really good price on this on Amazon. This was running like, I don't know, $50 or $60 on most of the craft sites, and it was like 40 something on Amazon, and I haven't broken into this. And as you know, I'm a big fan of my Platinum 6, which is generally my go-to die cutting machine. But I was hoping to get something a little smaller that could basically sit on my desk all the time, kind of like how my Cricut tends to do. That makes, at least for me, that always makes it a little less of a production to sort of start doing things. And oh my goodness, there is lots of tape on this box. There we go. Am I still taped here? Oh, they just have tabs. So this uses small plates, as you can see. The replacement plates aren't actually that expensive, but the thing I was curious about is if they will actually cover one of these 2-inch shapes. And actually it does, which is good news, because I have to this is the stamp set, or sorry, the die set I want to play with in a little bit more detail once we get there. I have not opened it yet. So this comes with 2 cutting plates. It comes with an embossing plate. It comes with a manual we might read later. And then it comes with a mini embossing folder that'll basically do like a tag emboss. And a coordinating stamp set for the tag emboss, and then some numbers to go along with this whole thing. So this sort of is a pretty versatile. You can make all sorts of tags. This is the Tim Holtz version of this, and there is also, I think, a non-Tim Holtz version. It oddly cost more money, which seemed weird, but in any event, let us see what the actual machine looks like. And it comes with a little something that I'm sure will tell us things. And the reason I kind of like this one's got like a suction dealie on the bottom. So in theory, I'm thinking I could line this up with the edge of my mat, right? And then if I suction it down, it doesn't move around, but basically then this could sort of be here all the time. And one of the things with die cutting I found is like I'll often opt to stamp. Oh, this is the free extended warranty. I'm curious if it has a sandwich guide anywhere. It sort of does. I actually like the Spellbinders one that's just printed directly on the block, but let's just, for giggles. And the interesting thing is this is actually beveled on these edges too, which I think is kind of a neat idea because then it makes it a lot easier to actually get it in and out of the machine. If you figure, oh, I guess they're all beveled. So I mean, like that way when you're like cranking it in. But let's see. Oh, that's interesting. So if you pull it out, it doesn't really engage, and if you push it in, it does. That is interesting. This handle feels less beefy, so basically like it can slide out and then it doesn't really engage, but you have to sort of push it in to engage it, which I'm not sure how I feel about that, but anyway. The other thing is we probably need to obviously cut down paper to fit this a little bit better. Let's try cutting something. Oops. There we get some of this out of the way. I was just looking in here, and what I really need to do is cut craft. So let's just, since we have a measurement here, this is 2.5 inches. This does work pretty well. It looks like my hands are falling off the shot a little bit, but I mean, this would be, I could see leaving this here. And I mean, you could also adhere it, you could basically suction it down where the Cricut Joy usually is, which is another option here, but let us with a random S. Anyway, let us cut this to, I don't know, 2 inches in whatever half one of these is. So 2.5 inches. Seems like that's, I guess that's correct. Anyway, the joys of a new machine where you're like, I don't know if that thing I'm thinking makes sense. And then, whatever half of that is. These are 8.5, so 4.25, I guess, is a half size. And let's see how that lines up. Yeah, so this is 2.5 by 4.25. So that would be, those would be pretty easy slices to cut. Let us break into our brand new die set. If you saw my other video, you kind of are familiar with where we're going with this, but basically there are donuts I want to use for focal points on a bunch of cards in our next February series of Canvas Card Challenge, which is coming really soon. I think we're going to get one out of each of these, which I feel like you might do a little bit better with, if you were doing sort of the standard thing with the Platinum 6. So that's just a thought. I don't know. So these are kind of interesting. There we go. Guess we're trying to not like maim ourselves on the dies as I did on a previous occasion, but I don't think there's a magic mat for this smaller size Tim Holtz. I feel like I want to get like a mini sander just to cut some of the edges, like sand down some of the sharper points on the die. But basically this is the same size as these big guys, and then you have this little heart you can use as a punch out. I'm not really planning to do a punch out. I'm thinking I'm just going to do filled donuts. And then you have other sizes of hearts, so if you wanted to do a larger or smaller cutout, or just have, essentially it functionally comes with a bunch of hearts, which is nice. So we would just line this up. We would put this guy in. I would getting this in is kind of interesting. I'm wondering if I'm not doing it quite correctly. Yeah. You almost need to kind of like oh, yeah, my bad. This is away, so you push the handle in the direction that you're trying to cut, which, is fine. And you hear the pop, which probably means this cut very nicely. Yes, it did. I have no complaints. Cat Scrappy Minute Snake's a nice die. We have a little space here if we want to do other hearts later. I want to cut about 10 of these, I think. And I'm going to do another one of these here quick. So I'm more or less going to do most of a sheet. I'll probably do most of a sheet of just standard hearts. This machine, I was sort of pushing it a little aggressively before, but the machine itself does stay put pretty nicely. And again, I think if you had a full sheet, you potentially could do a little bit better. Let me just cut, but let's try something a little different. Let me see. I think I will pause here and cut the rest of these hearts, and then come back when I have maybe 8 or so of these, and then I'd like to punch out a few sort of with this pattern. I don't know that I'll use either of these today, but I think I want to do a couple of these where I can basically get all the, I don't know, sort of nut crumble pieces out, because then I can use those in coordination with either of these frosting layers, and I want to play with the frosting layers in the dip, and some shimmer cardstock and maybe some glitter cardstock to just sort of put this thing through its paces and see how it does with other materials. But I'll be back in a few. Okay, we're back. So we have 8 of these hearts all cut out of craft. I need about 10, I think I figured out, for the Kendra's Card Challenge. There are 15 cards, but not all of them have like focal pieces of ephemera. Some just use a sort of, some I'm planning to just sort of die cut out a piece of white cardstock and then stamp it. So anyway, so I think 8 is good. I think I counted in one about 10. So I got this chocolate colored cardstock, which people might call brown. Let me just, I guess I could show you. So I split up the rest of the, die set here. But I think I'm going to do the one with the jimmies, or I think people call those other things in other regions. Sprinkles, if you prefer. So these are exactly the same size, and I'm just going to run it through. After playing with this machine, I like it quite a bit, I have to say. Like, because of the suction, it stays put way better than the Platinum 6, which is nice. So we have, well, what we need to do is, it's funny, I've had these little triangle trays for a while, but I have never actually used them for anything. But basically, we want to keep all the little pieces that you might call a sprinkle. And what I need, if I have one, that's not it. Oh, here we go. It is a pokey tool, because we want to basically get these out of the die. But we want to use these as embellishments later, potentially. Now, you don't have to, because if you notice, let me just get all my sprinkles where they need to be for a second, and then I do actually really like this particular pokey tool because it has a silicone end, and here is another sprinkle. Anyway, so I'm just using this to capture our sprinkles. And I'll use another one for if we go back and do the nuts. I don't know that I'll necessarily do the nuts. We'll see. Anyway, what I was saying is, given where these are, if you put frosting on top of the donut, you're basically not going to see whether or not you cut anything out, which I think is like one of the killer features of the die set. Obviously, if you use something like this drip, the drip you'd still see some holes. But anyway, so we have one chocolate donut, and we'll do we'll just do a standard chocolate donut. And I like that these dies basically make their own embellishments. Of course, the other option is if you have any kind of sprinkles, you can always use those. And there we go. So now we're up to 10. And I think I'm good with hearts here. So I think what I'm going to do is put our hearts over there and grab another one of these guys and see what we can do with the dip. So we can get the dip on here for sure. And I'm thinking we can also get these squiggles maybe on the same piece if we're really lucky. And then we can basically get more cutting out of each pass. Did I? Oh. There we go. For some reason that came through as a really thick sandwich, but, or, oh, I had this plate reversed. So these warp a lot, as if you've had any of these before, you know. There we go. And these little lines also basically serve the same purpose. Whoops. Which is to collect static electricity. No, just kidding. They also are embellishments. And we have our chocolate dip. So how this would go together is that you essentially would, somehow I have glitter on there, but they would sort of go together like that. That's one. Actually, that looks like a sprinkle that got away. So let's try and see what we can do. So this is a pearlescent cardstock that I like quite a bit. So we're going to definitely see if we can get the question is if you can get, if there's a way that you can basically get a dip and another piece out of this. It looks like you can, and we'll see how that works. There we go. Yeah, the sort of like all the crank machines, like these plates warp a lot, so you have to make sure that you're putting them with their sort of their curves in the same way, if that makes sense. Anyway, so here we have our first frosting, which you can kind of see how that's iridescent. So if we go back to our punched out heart, you can see how you could do a chocolate donut dipped in pink frosting, if my camera will focus on it. And that looks very iridescent-y in real life, if that is a word. And then we also have a pink frosting dip that we could use on one of our donuts. So I'm very happy that you can get, like that I'm able to get multiple passes, and like the amount of waste here is not much. Plus this also you could reuse as a stencil, like if you wanted to actually just clone the heart. So let's grab another shimmery. Actually, this is not shimmery, but I do have a shimmery. So this is a shimmery purple. So let's see if we can get, ooh, so many dies. For a $20 die set, this particular Cat Scrappiness one really packs quite a punch. Which I always like. This is actually last year's Valentine's Day release. Whoops. And I do find this, like, smaller plate size, or the smaller, I guess you call that a plate. I mean, like, the smaller plate size, I think, is a lot easier to handle without having to washi tape down everything. One of the things with the Platinum 6 I always find is, like, it seems like you have to do a lot of washi taping with a lot of the dies to keep them sort of together. So here we get that. I'm probably going to plagiarize Sagar's technique on a lot of these, sort of what I would call a non-chocolate donut. Just because I think if you ink, get a little ink on the edges, it'll give them a much more 3D look. So let's look at something that's a little more of a pain, because these have all been cardstock. So I went to my Michael's stash and picked up this glitter, paper, cardstock, etc. I think it would be really neat to have a glittery dip donut. Who knows if that's a real thing, but... And then I can also get another frosting piece. And the suction here really does sort of serve as like an additional hand. Let's hope that goes through okay. Note to self, buy more of these cutting plates. Let's see how this cut, or if it did. Oh yeah, this definitely cut. So I was kind of curious about this because it's sort of, you never know. It didn't quite work on the edge here. So this piece, well, what we could do is just sort of, you know, do a little trim job on it. Perhaps. I do like the look of this a lot. It's too bad this piece didn't come out. No, I'll probably recut that one. But this I like a lot. This is very cool. Big fan. So let's try that again, because we have another piece of this. I also have pink, and I think we're going to do it in pink for sure, because it is Valentine's Day. And also, I really think that our color palette, so like the paper pad, which I don't have in front of me, I don't think, but it has some very soft pink tones, so I think some hot pink might actually, you know, add some interesting variation. Did I do this first again? I might have. If I miscut this twice, I'm going to feel really silly after saying how you don't need washi tape. But let's put this back together. Okay, so we've got one here, we've got one here, we've got a plate on top. I don't know why that is being unhappy with me today. Let's not do that. So this is, see if we can, this is getting quite warped. So what if I flip this over? See if I can't unwarp the plate a little bit. Because I think the issue is this is just getting very pressed as it goes through. The other thing you can do is not try and use the entire plate at once, like what I'm doing. What you can actually do is just center the single die, which may be what this is intended for. But we shall see how this worked out. This looks like, perfection. So we have one of these. Another dip. I think we just need, I don't know, maybe one set of pink. And I think I'll do, I don't know. I actually really like this dip quite a bit. So I think I'll do that. Then we can sort of because of the weight of this cutting mat that I use all the time, but usually cover up because it reflects like crazy. Very cool. I gotta say, I'm really, for such a small machine, I'm impressed by the pressure. And see, like, I think this just looks really awesome. I don't think we need anything else. I would like to cut another chocolate donut. I think I'd like to cut another chocolate, like just another standard chocolate donut while we have stuff out and we are cutting. I'm curious if, oops, could you get a chocolate donut and a dip? That, I'm thinking should work. This is probably one I should washi tape, but we'll see. Yeah, this one is not particularly liking. The machine seems to like it a lot less when you put the dies right up against the edge of the plate. So, like, if you are having any difficulty, like I occasionally was, what you can actually do is, rather than what I'm doing where I'm trying to get the most possible out, what you can do is just do a single pass. I think we're pretty good. I have a lot of extra pieces, which I don't really mind because that way, if we want to come back and do more, we are ready to go. So let me just show you this for sort of point of comparison. And I will get my dies sort of over to the side here. So rather than like putting this right up against the edge, by putting it in the center, this is probably going to be a lot easier to feed in. The other thing that's nice is if you only are using one die in the center, you can basically use your like thumb and forefinger to keep it centered. And as you notice, like, I only had one miscut and I didn't washi tape anything, and that's a lot better than my usual run-throughs with my bigger guy. So, as you can see, actually this plate straightened out pretty well. This was really warped, so this may be a situation where you want to flip this. It seems to warp more than the larger die machines, so just FYI, like I feel like you'd go through plates a lot faster, but again, the plates are not those plates aren't very spendy. I think they're like $5 for a set, and we're available on Amazon, so I now have a trash can to get rid of scraps I know I'll never use, but I'm gonna save most of the original. Not this one, but a lot of these original ones would be great to use for stenciling or lunar paste or anything like that, where I guess I would say especially something like a lunar paste where you might not want to have to clean it off your stencil, where here you can just use these and you're good to go. So I'm going to stack, this is all my leftovers. So, oh, funny story, while I'm talking about this, the shimmer paper, I managed to like leave a sponge on some of it, and so this is totally wrecked for using as a full sheet. So that's another potential like benefit of one of these. Let me just sort of lay these all out so we can sort of see what we're working with for once we start with really doing KCC9 in earnest. And I can move my plates. But I'm a big fan. This actually worked out better than I thought it would, just in terms of, you know, the fact that I think it's going to be really easy to cut things on the fly, which is something I don't really do now because of the machine I have. So I think it'll be really nice to be able to do that. Let's see. So we have, and one more. So let's just sort of put these together. So glittery one, pearlescent one, just sort of a chocolate. I think you wouldn't really want to use the same color against the same color. It would kind of wind up looking a little, I don't know, I don't think it would look as nice. The glitter I'm liking. I don't know what the logic of glitter frosting is, but hey, who are you? Who am I to judge an art project from someone else? I do like the purple The purple against the chocolate is very nice, I must say. Then we have this guy. I must have put some others away. Maybe not. Oh, and then we have the lines for this guy. So these just sort of, I mean, these can go on however you want, but the idea, I think, is you would do sort of you would sort of do drizzles, essentially. And of course, you could wind up with other options. And we have some sprinkles we can use. Obviously, we have glitter, lots and lots of glitter, and I have a plethora of glitter. So anyway, that's what we're working with, and you will see these upcoming in a bunch of reels soon as we start kicking off KCC 9 for February. Thanks for checking it out. Talk to you guys later.